Peace, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We also have an amazing ASL interpreter with us. Thank you for being here as well, Rashida. Appreciate you. We are here again to honor the stolen lives. This is 2021, the induction ceremony for the families that we have yet to introduce to this process, which is a long process of support, networking for many of the families, from Juanita Young to Andre Smith and all in between. There's so many. It is an event that is very dear to my heart, and it's a gathering very dear to my heart because it's very ceremonious. So whatever you need to do to ground yourself, to be present with us, please do. If you need to step away, if some of the stories are a little too intense for you, please do so. Have some water with you, send some prayers, some reflections. All the families need it. So thank you for being here. Even though you are on YouTube, you can still chat and give some acknowledgement to the families, because we are going to be watching that and paying attention to that and reading that. I would also like to call up. I wonder if she's here. I don't know. It's a backstage vibe, so I'm not really sure who's here. But if Andre Smith is here, because I believe Andre is going to help me with calling some of the names out while we do libations for people who are no longer present with us in this realm. So I think the video is coming on. So thank you all. Once again, my name is Spirit Child. I'm from the South Bronx. Right now I'm in Europe. So it's a little dark over here, but I wouldn't miss this for the world, for any world, to be present with you all and to help in honoring and emceeing and hosting this vibration. We usually do it physically. Obviously, because of COVID, we have been taking other measures. And last year it was very successful with so many people chiming in and sending their energy. So it's about energy, y'all. I know it's a really tough situation to grasp. A lot of our families and friends are still being harassed, assassinated by police. And in this time, it's really important for us to create and come together. So we're going to try to create that vibration. I think Andre's with us right now. And we're going to get this kind of vibration going for you all. I'm joined by Andre Smith, mother of Justin Smith, who was killed by Tulsa sheriffs in August 14th, 1998. And she's a force. I don't know if you want to sing at some point, but if you want to hear her voice, she has an amazing, beautiful voice, amazing mother, amazing power, amazing magic. This right here is our earth we're going to have for now for libations. Libations is a spiritual connection. It is not something that is religious. We do this to call the names of our ancestors and to call the names of those who are no longer present, to say that we will always remember never to forget you. Never to forget you. You are here in our hearts. You are here in our souls. You are the reason why we march in the streets. You're the reason why we seek justice. And the ancestors are guiding and protecting you now. And this is our way of acknowledging you all. So I'll just be pouring some water while Andre says the names of those that we have lost presently and also in the past. And you can do so at home as well. I think we're kind of losing every now and then. Oh, I think Ingrid's here. Okay, cool. So I think Ingrid, you're going to help us out maybe.
Yes, I will with the names.
All right, cool. Here we go. All right. So again, this is Spiritual Vibration. And we're going to be led with the names by Ingrid Hill, an amazing power force activist, matriarch, who is going to help me out here as we call the names out when we get to that part. And if you're home, if you want to be involved with us, when a name is called, you can say presente or ashe. Again, when the name is called, you can say presente and or ashe. That's a way of acknowledging them and bringing them into this space. When it comes down, don't you be afraid. When it comes down, No matter what name you call, just be ready for it all. I am ready for it all. When it comes down, don't you be afraid. When it comes down, no matter what name you call, just be ready for it all. And I'll be pouring the water as we say each name. So Ingrid, whenever you're ready, I'll be following you.
Okay. Carolyn Sissy Adams.
Ashe.
Kashad Ashford.
Ashe.
Justin Smith.
Ashe.
Malcolm Ferguson.
Ashe.
Bilal Deshaun Colbert.
Ashe.
Stanton Crew.
Ashe.
Dawood Culver.
Ashe.
Sandra Bland.
Ashe.
Barry DeLoach Sr.
Ashe.
Earl Faison.
Ashe.
Rakia Boyd.
Ashe.
Jacque Fields.
Ashe.
Brian Fillmore.
Ashe.
Daryl DeRose Lacroix Fuqua.
Ashe.
George Floyd.
Ashe.
Jacque Graham.
Ashe.
Abdul Kamal.
Ashe.
Tasha Mazie.
Ashe.
Eleanor Bumpers.
Ashe.
Jerome Reed.
Ashe.
Philip Pinnell.
Ashe.
Maurice Gordon.
Ashe.
Carl Dorsey III.
Ashe.
Guya Dale III.
Ashe.
Michael Newkirk.
Ashe.
Alvin Cole.
Ashe.
I'm trying to see if anybody adding any names to the list.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Perez Giron.
Ashe.
Antonio C. Armstrong.
Ashe.
Daniel Covarrubias.
Ashe.
Wayne Fella Morrison.
Ashe.
I think that's it.
We also want to acknowledge those who are out there. Thank you, Ingrid, so much for reading the names. Those of you who are putting names in the chat or saying names in your heart or in your mind, we want to give an ashe to all those names that we have not called. The list is very long. We also want to give ashe and acknowledgement to Fred Hampton, Mark Clark. Yesterday was a commemoration of the day of their assassination by state, but specifically police. And we're talking about political prisoners. We're talking about Black Panthers, young lords. We're talking about you and me in the streets. We're talking about people who are not affiliated with organizations. We're talking about souls and individuals who are in a place at a time and things happen. Whether you are actively involved in anything or not, this can happen to any one of us. We're talking about support for all of our families and all the people who are no longer here. We're also talking about honoring the land in which we are. Right now, like I mentioned, I'm in Europe. However, my home is Lenape territory, Staten Island, New York City. We want to acknowledge the land that we are upon, the genocide that has been committed. We want to acknowledge the elements, Pachamama, the beautiful earth that we live in. We live upon, we coexist with. You want to acknowledge the winds and the directions, north, south, east, west. We want to acknowledge all indigenous cultures from Lenape, Iroquois, the Confederate foundations, all of the indigenous peoples, and knowing that we are always here remembering you. We want to also give special healing power and energy to Leonard Peltier, to our political prisoners who need it, those who have not transitioned, who are still here but need our energy, those who have fought for land rights, those who have fought for human rights, those who have fought for basic civil rights. These are the reasons why we're here. the October 22nd Coalition, Stolen Lives Project. We welcome you. Thank you so very much. There's a lot of people that are going to speak and present. And again, please ground yourself as much as you can and be present with us. Just so you know, it's also coming up. We have cultural performances throughout. Jen Dog will be with us. Congo, Kai Slaughter, the Peace Poets, the Writers Collective, the Brothers Sisters Writers Collective. And thank you, of course, Lumi, for holding us down on the production tip and the stream. It's always a pleasure and honor to work with you, brother. Yeah, what's up, what's up, what's up? Dynamic individual, filmmaker, also part of the Peace Poets, and a beautiful, beautiful being, multi-talents, of course. We have guest presenters, Carl Dix, which is co-founder of the October 22nd Coalition. King Downing will be joining us as well. We also have Michelle Gross, and of course, Ingrid, as you met. And I believe Carl Dix is going to open up with the pledge, reading the Stolen Lives Pledge, as well as introducing one of the first families. Carl, welcome.
Pledge handy. I didn't know that that was my role. We'll have to get the pledge back to you. I mean, I came on and I'm here to speak to the murder of Alvin Cole and to bring his mother on. Before doing that, though, I wanted to give just a little bit of background on the October 22nd Coalition. Very brief. In 1996, the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian proposed creating a national movement to build resistance to the way the system unleashed its cops to terrorize Black and other oppressed people. I was the one who acted on this proposal and gathered people to initiate the October 22nd Coalition to stop police brutality, repression, and the criminalization of a generation. That was in 1996. In 1997, the October 22nd Coalition produced the first edition of Stolen Lives, which was really the first effort to document the reality of the nationwide epidemic of police terror by listing the victims of people murdered by police and restoring the humanity of these victims who were killed a second time when their lives were downgraded, dragged through the mud to justify the police having murdered them. Building this kind of exposure and resistance was very important then, and it is even more important today. It is even more important today because the police continue to brutalize and murder people. And at the same time, it's occurring at a point when there's intense infighting at the top of the system, with the Republicans grouped around Trump aggressively moving to create a fascist America where the white supremacy, women-hating, anti-immigrant xenophobia is taken to even greater levels, while at the same time, the Democrats are trying to keep the normal white supremacy, male supremacy, and immigrant hating in effect. This infighting, neither one of them got anything good for the people. But as they fight, it tears the cover off their system. And it helps to bring about a situation where the conditions needed to make revolution to get rid of the whole system can come about. Continuing the resistance to police terror and escalating it, mass incarceration, and the other horrors that both sections of the warring inter-ruling class fight need to enforce is an important front for building up the forces for the real revolution that humanity needs. Don't have time to really get into this, but all of it has gone into very deeply in a new talk by Bob Avakian titled Something Terrible or Something Truly Emancipating. Profound crisis, deepening divisions, the looming possibility of civil war and revolution, a foundation and roadmap for this revolution. This talk is going to be posted on the website revcom.us on December 3rd, and I ask everyone with a heart for justice to go to that website and dig into this talk. Now, to get to what I'm here for, I want to introduce to you Tracy Cole, mother of Alvin Cole, who was murdered by police in Wisconsin on February 2nd, 2020. Now, there's been a lot of talk over the past few months that maybe the system is starting to get right holding police accountable. This was raised after the pig who murdered George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, was convicted of murder. This talk was dusted off when the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery were convicted of murder and sent to jail. This talk is not true. And what happened to Alvin Cole indicates very clearly that it is not true. Just because we caught them a couple times in things that they couldn't avoid doesn't mean that they have recognized the injustice that their criminal injustice system has been bringing down on people. Alvin Cole was hit by multiple bullets as he tried to get away from the police. He wasn't no threat. He was trying to get away because he knew what the threat was, those police who were coming after him. He was hit with multiple bullets, like I said. 2 shots hit him as he was down on his hands and knees. 3 more shots were fired into his body while he lay face down on the ground. Yet the Milwaukee County District Attorney announced several months later, I think it was in the summer of 2020, that the killer cop would face no charges. Since this incident went down, Tracy Cole has led a fight for justice and joined that fight to the fight for justice that everybody with an ounce of humanity in their hearts needs to be a part of. To recognize and respect that fight for justice, and equally important, to recognize the humanity of Alvin Cole, the Stolen Lives Project is issuing a certificate to Tracy Cole. And I'm introducing her now, and I will have to find the mission statement and bring that so we can, oh, there it is. There's the mission statement. There's the certificate. I give you Tracy Cole.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Cole. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My life was changed last year, February 2nd, when a cop had murdered my son. My son was only 17 at the time of his death. When my life was changed, basically, when I had to find my son myself. No cop came to my house to tell me that my son was killed. I had me and my husband and my children, other children, had to find him. We found out 6 months later that the cop that killed my son, he killed altogether 3 people. My son, Alvin Cole, Jay Anderson, and Antonio Gonzalez within 5 years. This cop that killed and murdered our children, he still works on Wauwatosa Police Department. Well, he's no longer in Wauwatosa, he's in Waukesha. They promoted him to become sheriff of Waukesha. That was a slap in my face, not once, not twice, but 3 times. My family is constantly being harassed. When I found out about this cop being African and American, it didn't change my thoughts. This cop should be prosecuted and put in jail. When I found out that my son was murdered, And when the DA gave his decision, John Chisholm in Wisconsin, he had said that he couldn't find justification of my son's death. So basically, I went out and protest to make changes in Waukesha, Wauwatosa. And during that change, my family was targeted. My two daughters that was in separate cars, they was thrown out the car. My youngest daughter had got a gun pointed to her head and took into jail. And then my oldest daughter, she was handcuffed and her arm was twisted by the police. I was in the second car over when the police had beat me up. They grabbed me by my hair. It was not just the police, it was the National Guards too. They dragged me out the car. I told them y'all had to take your time because I'm an elderly, I have a cane. They said, get your ass, excuse my language, out the car or we gonna bust these windows. By them pulling me by my hair, I was hit in the head, in my forehead, numerous times, giving me a big gash on my head. And then I was tased and I was handcuffed and they tossed me onto the ground and they was on my back and they were trying to get to my neck. When I told them, I'm Alvin Cole's mom, y'all killed my son, now y'all trying to kill me. So today, it doesn't stop me from being out here to seek justice for my son, Alvin Cole. But I'm trying to get justice for this cop to get off the streets. His name is Joseph Mensah. He only been a rookie in the Wauwatosa Police Department for only, 5 years. And it doesn't justify them targeting my family, tapping my phones. Y'all got all this energy to do all this, but y'all is not going to try to stop this cop. They said this cop is unfit to be working as a cop. This cop is unstable. I just need changes. We made laws changed in Wauwatosa. Now the cops have to wear body cameras because we had changed those laws. We had changed those laws by them getting everything that we asked for. We got the Wauwatosa police chief. He resigned. We changed that. Numerous cops quit because we changed that. But it doesn't. We had Jay Anderson that was shot in the head 5 times by Joseph Mensah by sleeping in his car. We had got that case reopened, and we had found the special prosecutor to look over that case. My son, Alvin Cole, was shot in his back by surrendering in a 6-point stand. It was 5 cops in front of Alvin. None of them shot. They didn't feel Alvin was a threat. And they shot my, Joseph Mensah was the last cop to arrive on the scene. And he shot my son 2 times in the back. He fell down to his stomach and shot 3 more times. Now, you tell me, is that a monster or what? I believe it is. My daughter, she may have something else to say. To Libya.
Mom, everything, you did a great job. Once again, we're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where you have a serial killer on the force currently. Shot his gun 19 times within 5 years. People in the army don't even fire their weapons, you know. And our fight has been hard. We have been marching for over 100 days consecutively to get this man off the street. We managed to get him suspended with paid leave pending investigation. This is the same DA on all three cases. This is the same chief on all three cases. A chief who allowed him to kill again. A chief who covered up, who protected him. A DA who cannot make a decision when there were hella witnesses, evidence that this man was reckless in all three cases. Just like Mom said recently, we did John Doe hearing, which I encourage any family who is going through something similar, who has been denied justice, to ask your lawyer to look up on this. It is called a John Doe procedure, when a judge intervenes after a DA decides or fails to bring charges to anyone, whether it's a cop or not. So we've been going through that procedure, and recently a judge determined that there is probable cause to charge Joseph Mensah for the death of Jay Anderson. So next week, Wednesday, the judge is going to assign a special prosecutor more about this case. Please follow us. You can take our name down. You can search about the case. It's all over. But we definitely need help spreading the word. You know, once again, these are 3 people that were killed by one officer who's still working. And it's not about his color. Yes, he's African. However, he's still a cop. He still has an oath to live by that he decided not to do. He's suffering from PTSD. He has never been disciplined. He has never been suspended. He has never had a mental state check. And this is all taking place in Wisconsin, just like Kyle Rittenhouse, just like Jacob Blake. So definitely stand with us. We call them D3, THREE. So justice for D3.
Thank you so much. Our hearts are with you. Our energies with you. Any petitions that need to be signed, any actions that you're gonna ride on, please do put them in the chat. A lot of people here are organizing from North Carolina. I see people here, DC, throughout. So it's a national movement. It's actually an international movement. And thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing the truth, and going after justice, and not being afraid, and being beautiful, brilliant people that you are. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank you. I also want to thank Ibrahim, who was also doing the translations earlier, or the signs. So I appreciate it. And now we're back with Rashida. Welcome. And I want to introduce a very dear brother to me. We're gonna have some culture in the house right now. An amazing poet / MC, actually the last MC, not the last MC that you hear, but the last MC. You can check them out at the Peace Poets. Every time I see this brother and this family perform, I get chills, I get thrills, I get inspired, I get wired, and I just get higher. And also to mention, a revolutionary matriarch and a father. So what's up? Peace, brother.
Yo, peace, family. It is a blessing to be here, witnessing and holding community. And it is an honor to offer these prayers in the form of poetry. Later on, you'll also get to hear from some of the members, the youth members of this program called the Writers Collective, part of the Brotherhood Sister Soul. And on behalf of them, though they'll express their gratitude as well, just wanted to share how blessed we are to be here and to absorb and to be connected. I go by the last MC, and I'm a poet from the school of hip hop, philosophizing, sipping coffee on the block. Say a prayer for those murdered by the cops. If you ain't seeking knowledge of self, kick rocks. If you're awake, you know that we're between life and death. Gotta choose your highest self, can't live with regret. Let every stumble plant the seed for 100 steps. Working out the trauma, we do 100 reps before the sun is set. When you walk in the light, you gotta speak with death. Then you value every breath and can figure out conditions that you won't accept. Death to the ego, there is plenty to protect. Say it with your life before you say it with your chest. Let's not avoid accidents, then catch a wreck. Cause of road rage and misdirected disrespect, a true MC lives the basic elements of the vibration that pounded the Bronx settlements. That's peace, love, and unity. And if we gotta fight, we fighting for our community. Music, a reminder that it's bigger than just you and me. Combine that with our story and philosophy. That's a true MC, like the ones that reach me. That Black Star CD, Most Def and Quali. That Sound Bombing and Let's Get Free. It's the school of hip hop Lauryn Hill taught me. I learned at the feet of our poetry. Said my name at the fire so they know it's me. It's the last MC. I'm a poet from the school of hip hop, philosophizing, sipping coffee on the block. Say a prayer for those murdered by the cops. If you ain't seeking knowledge of self, kick rocks. You know we seeking knowledge of self through hip hop. Peace, family.
Peace, peace, peace. Always an honor and a pleasure to hear that. Hear some vibrations from you, brother. Good to see you. Looking great. We're going to keep it moving. Just due to time, I want to bring back Ingrid Hill, who is the Vice Chair of Internal Affairs, corresponding Secretary of People's Organization for Progress, or POP, National Family Coalition for Justice, presenting certificates to the families of Julia Dale III, Daryl DeRose Lacroix Fuqua, and Oscar Perez Giron. You're muted, I think, Ingrid.
Okay. I'm sorry. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge all of the families who have lost members to U.S. law enforcement and who continue to persevere and fight for justice for their loved ones on all fronts, while at the same time supporting each other in the struggle. I'm with the People's Organization for Progress, a grassroots organization fighting for racial, social, economic justice and peace that has been for over 38 years, organizing and advocating against the scourge of police brutality on all fronts, and has supported numerous families. A lot of families have come through POP in terms of getting support to fight the injustice as it relates to their family members. In addition, we also collaborate with other groups for legislation that will provide police transparency and accountability, of which one is, in New Jersey in particular at this point, we're fighting for A4656, S2963, which is Civilian Review Board with subpoena powers, concurrent investigation, community character and makeup, and disciplinary recommendations. I also serve as a support person for the National Family Coalition for Justice. It's a group of family members who work together collaboratively to support each other as well as to organize against the injustice. As we know, historically and presently, the fight against police terrorism has and continues to be an uphill battle, especially with the Fraternal Order of Police trying to block any progressive legislation that would hold the police accountable and make their actions transparent. However, as a collective, we can change this epidemic by continuing our struggle on all fronts, whether in the streets, meeting with legislators and letting our needs known, and at the election polls against legislators who vote against police reform bills, meeting and educating our community and the role that it can play in police reform, continue to keep our voices heard, and recognizing that each police killing of a civilian touches us in ways that we may not be aware of, but have a responsibility to confront. Again, stop police terrorism, arrest, prosecute, and imprison all killer cops, justice for all victims of police brutality. Today, as part of the Stolen Lives Project, The first family that that's gonna be coming on is Valerie Colbert, who is the sister of Guya Dale III, as he's being inducted into the Stolen Lives Project. On December 5th, 2021, the name of Guya Dale III is formally entered into the Stolen Lives Project, joining tens of thousands of people killed by law enforcement in the U.S. since 1990. These victims who are gathered together in death, shot out from their graves for justice. Over 1,000 are killed by this official violence every year. These victims whose lives have been viciously cut short all have lives and families and were part of society, but rarely are their lives or names publicized, nor are the real circumstances surrounding their deaths caused by law enforcement made known. Their names, stories, and faces gathered into the Stolen Lives Project demand of the living to tell the truth in their stories, and that there be no more stolen lives. We refuse to let Guya die in vain. In his name, we will stop this national epidemic. And now, Valerie Colbert.
Hi, everybody. I just want to, on behalf of my family, we want to thank the Stolen Lives Project for watching and listening to this tragic shooting by the hands of the police in Newton, New Jersey, and giving us this platform to give light to and honor our Black veteran, man, father, husband, brother, son, and friend. Retired Army Major Guya Dale III, life was stolen away on the soils he vowed to protect in front of his family, just steps away from his home, where he lived almost 30 years. His life was stolen from his family, his people, his community, and his country by Newton, New Jersey police officers Armstrong, Stephen Neidel, and an unnamed officer who has not been named as of yet, and the police dispatcher on the 4th of July of this year, 2021, on a day of American patriotism. Major Guya Dale received numerous decorations and badges for his service to his country. He served over 40 years of admirable military service in active duty, reserve, and National Guard. And the day he was assassinated, he worked at the Pentagon of the United States for the Joint Chief of Staff as the EEO specialist. He honorably worked with the agency's Human Resources Directive and senior leaders to identify and address barriers to equality. However, my brother, Guya Dale III, Newton, New Jersey community, he was not treated with the same equality that he gave everyone. He was treated with bias. That day, on the 4th of July, fireworks played a tremendous part for my brother, who was struggling with PTSD, and calling 911 proved to be a really, really bad mistake that night, especially since the dispatcher did not radio out any area resources for my brother, like they did 6 months prior for a white Army veteran named Edwin Green, who we know shot at the police officers on the scene on January 26th of this year, and he was awarded all area resources to prevent death. These officers, Armstrong and Needle, and the unnamed officer who arrived on scene, did not ask retired Major Guya Dale III if he needed any medical attention. They did not even converse with his wife on scene either, which is really bad. In fact, no EMT, medical, or any mental health responder was called this day on 4th of July to the 911 dispatcher to assist my brother. They had no intention on calling a supervisor, area resources at all. The officer had no intention on getting mental health aid to my brother. Instead, they shot 7 rounds within 12 seconds into his body. And we're asking for justice for my brother, for Guya Dale III, and to see changes for 911 dispatcher information to be given to the responding officers properly, and for officers to be trained properly with mental health crisis training when they arrive on the scene. I believe all life should be protected and preserved, and death is preventable whenever an officer arrives on a call when dealing with someone with mental health. And it's a shame that my brother had to sacrifice and be the one to have to go through this, because he's a good person. If you guys would have met him, you would see what I was talking about. And we're demanding changes to the state legislatures. Retired Major Guya should still be here today celebrating his retirement. I will not rest until justice is done and changes are made. I will continue to protest for those changes for police accountability and stop police shootings. I want to thank the Stolen Lives Project again. And if any further questions or information is needed, it can be directed to the email and contact person listed. Thank you again, People Organization for Progress National Family Coalition for Justice, NAACP Rick Robinson, the National Action Network, NJCAP, and Hill Coalition in Sussex County. I do appreciate everything you guys are helping us with. And I'm not going to stop until justice is done for my brother. Thank you.
Okay, next we will be presenting to Gwen Bird Benson. Presented to Gwen Bird Benson, the Stolen Lives Project, to the family of Daryl DeRose Lacroix Fuqua. On December 5th, 2021, the name of Daryl DeRose Lacroix Fuqua is formally entered into the Stolen Lives Project, joining tens of thousands of people killed by law enforcement in the U.S. since 1990. These victims who are gathered together in death shout out from their graves for justice. Over thousands are killed by this official violence every year. These victims whose lives have been viciously cut short all had lives and families and were part of society. But rarely are their lives or names publicized, nor are the real circumstances surrounding their deaths caused by law enforcement made known. Their names, stories, and faces gathered in the Stolen Lives Project demand of the living to tell the truth of their stories and that there be no more stolen lives. We refuse to let Daryl die in vain. In his name, we will stop this national epidemic.
Hello, my name is Gwen Bird Benson, and Daryl Lacroix Fuqua was my son. My son was shot and killed in the back by a Bridgeton, New Jersey police officer on February the 10th, 2017, as he ran from them. The police chased my son 2 blocks and shot him in his back in the alley. This changed my life forever. It was claimed in the prosecutor's report that my son had a gun, running from the police, that he fell, got up, turned around, tried to shoot at the police officer, but the gun misfired, and this is the reason for them shooting him. Now, the alley that my son died in, I had 3 witnesses who seen and heard the incident. It was 3:45 in the afternoon. My son's last words were, help me, help me. And as a mother, that will haunt me for the rest of my life, because I wasn't there to help my child. My son, when I got there on the scene, my son was already gone. They had it roped off. They kept it roped off for the next day and a half. At first, the report said that there was a gun in the vicinity. When I got to the hospital, which was around 4:15, they had me sit in the emergency room until 7:40 before they even came to tell me that my son was dead. I never got to see my son at the hospital. The first time I seen my son is when I actually went to make funeral arrangements. The police officer that shot my son, I learned that was a former state trooper in Pennsylvania and was let go for excessive behavior. And then Bridgeton Police Department hired him. Knowing this, I got a lawyer and I fought for justice for my son. During this time, found out a lot of things. In my heart, I think my son was targeted. My son had told me that he had been harassed by this officer before. This has been a nightmare. My life will never be the same. That was my baby. My son had just won an audition for New Jersey Got Talent and was about to go on his first audition. He was an inspired rap artist. He was supposed to perform on February the 18th, and this cop killed my son on February the 10th. He was so close to his dreams coming true. This has caused me so much heartache. I'm afraid I don't feel the same anymore. It's physically tore my body up. I had a stroke after this happened. But I want you to know that I will not let my son's name go down in vain. He was my best friend. He was my ride or die. We were close. I miss him so much. It's not fair that what the police do to our children and they get away with it. My son's death was justified as a wrongful death. Wrongful death. How can it be a wrongful death when you kill someone's child? You kill someone's family member. My son was 23 years old. He was just starting his life. He never had any children. It's just not fair. And I just pray to God that people open their eyes. Young people realize what they're trying to do to our children. And I just pray that y'all continue to pray for me. And let's get justice for our Black lives because they do matter. And I want to thank Stolen Lives for adding my son. And this is truly a blessing. And I just hope everybody stay vigilant with the police because all cops aren't bad, but there are some bad ones. And those bad ones you really, really need to watch out for. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Maria Garan. Her son, Oscar Perez Garan. Okay, Stolen Lives Project to the family of Oscar Perez Herran on December 5th, 2021. The name of Oscar Perez Herran is formally entered into the Stolen Lives Project, joining tens of thousands of people killed by law enforcement in the U.S. since 1990. These victims who are gathered together in death, shot out from their graves for justice. Over 1,000 are killed by this official violence every year. These victims whose lives have been viciously cut short all had lives and families and were part of society, but rarely are their lives or names publicized, nor are the real circumstances surrounding their death caused by law enforcement made known. Their names, stories, and faces gathered in the Stolen Lives Project demand of the living to tell the truth of their stories and that there be no more stolen lives. We refuse to let Oscar Perez Herran die in vain. In his name, we will stop this national epidemic.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for inviting me. My name is Maria Giron, and I'm a Hispanic immigrant. Take me too long, I'm sorry, to learn to speak the language. And the name of Oscar Perez Giron, he was murdered by King County Sheriff's Officer Michael Allen, June 30, 2014. For me, it was a really devastating because I didn't speak the language. It was hard for me to learn and understand the situation about Oscar. When the police murdered Oscar, I didn't even know he was dead. And some people feel weird that I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm still fighting for justice. Justice for Oscar Perez Giron and everyone who's been murdered by corruption and killer cops, no matter what. And it's very hard for me talking about Oscar because Oscar is still here in my heart, and I believe in justice. I believe in justice no matter what, you know, and especially for a Latino immigrant family, doesn't dominate the language. It's hard because when they murdered Oscar Perez Giron, I asked for so many organizations, they spoke my language, and I never get in support. Never get in support for any immigrant Latino organization. And they really made me feel angry, mad, because I was asking for support to someone who can understand in me because I don't speak the language. And I'm sorry. It's like what I say. I don't like talking about them much, but they really picks me up because, you know, no one's want to support an immigrant person because we've been targeting, because we are, that's what I've been here. All immigrants, we are bad. We're coming over here to destroy the country, but we are not. We are like another regular family who come for looking for the future, especially when we come to the United States and we brought to Oscar, you know, for a better future. Like I say, we don't have justice for Oscar because no one else supports us. I'm been keep fighting for Oscar, and I go everywhere that I has to go to march, even for everyone who's been murdered by a killing cops. And I'm gonna keep screaming and yelling, you know, for everyone. Oscar, for me, it was everything. It was another child. It's been past already 8 years, you know, and my family say, let all this in peace. I can, because I have a heart. My family don't understand. It's not a toy. It's not a plastic. It's not a garbage you can throw in and you can forget it. It's like that I don't love myself. Oscar, it was everything. Oscar is still here. I want to let him go, but I can't. And I cannot find justice for Oscar, you know. And like I say, it's kind of hard for me speaking the language because I have to learn little by little. I know some people, they're getting confused when I say I try to speak the English because I'm a Mexican immigrant. I came to the United States 35 years ago, but I'm still learning. I didn't went to the school. I was working, you know, and raising a children's single mom is kind of hard sometimes, you know. But what happened over here in Seattle, Washington, June 30, 2014, I'm never going to forget. I know Michael Alien is somewhere over there. We don't know where he are because he disappeared from Washington. We tried to find where he's being located. It's like he's disappeared, or they don't provide us much information about who murdered Oscar. And I want to say again, thank you for inviting me. I don't like to talking too much because when I talk too much, I said a bunch of things. But I believe in justice, and thank you for Stolen Lives giving me the opportunity to be here, because that's the ones who giving the opportunity to me in 2015 to show the people Oscar Perez Gyron is not alone, you know. And I want to say thank you to a couple of my friends. They always be with me. See, Cynthia, Emma Kaplan, Linda Soriano, Blas Felix, every year for the same thing. Margot, Phyllis, they're always with me every year, supporting me and asking for justice for Oscar Perez Giron. And I want to remind all the mothers who's been losing a piece of the heart, you're not alone. We are here. We are here. No matter the people laughing when we went on the street and we marching for our loved ones, they're not here anymore because we believe in justice. It's not about the money. People fight for money, taken to the court. Money doesn't mean nothing. Let me tell you this. Money, they're not going to give you your son back. This is one of the reasons that I didn't fight, because I don't believe in the money. I believe in God. That it. I don't believe in religions because there's only one God. But I know one day I'm going to see the justice somewhere over there. Not even for me, even for the whole mothers. We still fighting for justice. And like I say, I always say a couple words, things, because I want to express more, but I did not dominate the language very good. But Oscar Perez, Giron, he represents another stolen life in this country, because this country is corruption, and especially in police department, there's a lot of discrimination, and especially with the brown and blonde people, even in Asian. We've been targeted a lot. What we can do? Nothing. Just keep fighting. And thank you, like I say, thank you for inviting me. I don't want to get so sad today because I got another issue in my family, so I don't want to go more emotional. I just try to, calm down. So thank you very much for inviting me. But like I said, Oscar Perez Giron still alive in my heart. And I want to say to the mothers, you guys are not alone. We are here, so we're going to fight together. We continue to this fight. And we're going to fight to the end. Because sooner or later, we're going to find justice. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is Maria Giron from Seattle, Washington. One more stolen life.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the families that have spoken. And you said so very clearly, you are not alone. That is also the reason why we are here, not just to remember, not to forget to call their names out. and say them out loud and have them in our hearts and to live forever, and to also make sure that we are on the side of justice, that we are here together as a community, that we will fight, we will advocate, and we won't rest until there is justice for each and every one of the stolen lives. So thank you so much, Valerie, Gwen, the Cole family, Maria, and all those that are coming to speak. This is what we're here for. You can see on YouTube, we're not alone. Share it to people to watch, to learn from, to be inspired from, to do whatever they need to do to organize in a campaign is really important and critical that we all unite as much as possible. I want to introduce, before we get into our culture, Laura Hernandez to say some words for us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Hernandez, and I am a part of the Writers Collective program at Brotherhood Sister Soul. And today I will be reciting my poem, The Hill We Climb. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. Sometimes quiet is violent, whether it's a recurring thought that cannot stop because it thinks about the deceased caused by the police, or if it's a battle inside your heart where you're trying to stay alive, but the pressure weighs too heavy on your chest, and dying is the only way to feel relief. The violence can be silent, and the peace can be blaring. This contradictory, antithetical phenomenon is a reason why the nation is tearing. Other times the violence is so loud, you hear it at night when there is no sound, no noise to keep your mind distracted. Because when the silence comes, so does your fears. Of, do we even know why we're here? Do we know what next step to take? What do we do after the earth has quaked and shaked us all up from our core? Do we know what we're fighting for? Yes, we must, because if not, there is no future. If not, there is no hope. So with that glimmer of hope that comes from the unknown depths in our brain, we must use that to carry out a plan, not to wash away the stain, but to refrain and use our energy to maintain the place we call our home. While we may want to flee, escape, run, that does nothing if our children are done because they are burdened to fix our mistakes. So please, as a cry for help, find the will to come together in peace before our history becomes one of nothingness and is forced to cease. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, my name is Aylin. I'm also part of the Brotherhood Sisterhood Soul. And I'm going to read a poem, and I want this to be a prayer for the families, for the mothers, for everybody that's grieving. I'm by your side, and may this be like a poem for a prayer for each and every one of you. Blessed be the brokenhearted. Blessed is every tear you cry in darkness behind closed doors. Blessed be your dead body. Blessed is the blood poured day after day. Blessed is the mournful cry of the late night. Blessed be the dry deserts filled with famished souls. Yesterday holds the cries of the violated spirits, the laughter and dancing of demons. Yesterday holds the strongholds of spiritual bondage and the foretold odyssey. Tomorrow will be the completion to the phrase, this too shall pass. Tomorrow will be the resurrection of dead skeletons and thirsty souls. The everlasting hope prayed on, the answer to frantic cries, the finale to endless nights, the lotus flower in the murky pond, the rainbow through the clouds. Tomorrow will be the day you wanted to stay alive long enough for. Tomorrow will be the deliverance to demonic oppression and the ripped suicide note. Tomorrow will be the new beginning, and the dead inside you will be like the fertilizer for your growth. Let the rains of freedom wash down. Let there be an outpouring that washes the act of time and decay. Let the renovation take hold of you. Let joy shine through the scars. Let us rejoice in tomorrow's hope. Let us rejoice in God's promise. because without it, we might fade into nothingness. Thank you so much.
Oh, brotherhood, sister, soul, the work you do. I'm waiting to see and hear more. That's why I was waiting to hear some more art. Thank you so much for your power, your energy. Thank you so much to the mentors of Brotherhood, Sister Soul, and working so diligently and passing on the legacy of you utilizing culture as a weapon. And we appreciate you all, and we are here hand in hand. I do want to take this time to not only breathe, but to remind you that there is a GoFundMe out there. This work, as Sister Dayquee would always put it, freedom ain't free, fighting for justice ain't free. And thank you to the ASL translators here doing their job. We also want to make sure that we acknowledge and pay the people that are putting the work in to allow it to be accessible for the world. So please take some time. It's really not much. As you see in the chat, just please donate. Just click that link. It's really not much. I actually would challenge us to triple that number by the end. And I know some people behind the scenes will tell me, well, we don't need that money. You never know how many placards, postcards, anything that you need to arm yourself for this revolutionary process. So they humbly only ask for 400. I definitely think we can up that ante and, like, you know, bring it up, at least to the thousands or a little beyond that. While you're doing that so generously, you can also share the link to people. And I do want to acknowledge some stuff that's been in the chat. Ending police only response to mental health calls. Remembering Travis Jordan, Ashe, Phil Quinn, Ashe, Keaton Larson, Kobe Hessler, and all others taken by police violence while experiencing mental health crises. Also, Zeke Smith out in Washington State, the people who've been killed there and assassinated by police. James Whiteshed, Michael Ely, David Walker, Charlena Lyles, and Benjamin Evans as well. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. We want to acknowledge all the people that you have put on this chat. There are a few more by Zeke, Tommy Lee, Eddie Anderson, Aaron Roberts, John T. Williams. Ashe once again. Che Taylor, Miles Murphy, David Young, Corey Kanish, Manuel Ellis, Sean Maxwell, Leonard Thomas, Lucia Fautogo, Jacqueline Sailors, Demetrius Dubois, Dante Wright. Also remembering Gilbert A. Barber, Marcus Smith, Dylan Hatsfield, Ratmir Gasanov, James Pasquale Sr. and James Pasquale Jr. in North Carolina. And we'll come back to the chat, but I did want to read that while you donate and give some energy, some money, some vibrations. What's more important, you see the families here. I do want to acknowledge their amazing bravery for speaking today. It's really hard. It's even hard to listen. I'm sure there's a few family members who can use your energy and support. So please do say a prayer, meditate as we call up the next people to move us along. But I want to acknowledge and not just keep this as some kind of regular program. This is intense spiritual work. It's intense work. But we as a people, we're strong. We can do this, and we're here to hold each other. As you heard the mothers, this space is created by the families, for the families. I know Juanita Young, who's not feeling too well right now, shouting her out. Malcolm Ferguson, killed by NYPD March 1st, 2000. Michael Mahoney, killed by Onyx, California police, August 14th, 2012. Saheed Vasil, killed by NYPD on April 4th, 2018. So I do want to make sure that people understand that this has been going on for years, decades, and also for decades and years we have been holding each other, and we need all of us to support in that vibration. So please do consider that when you donate. I do want to call up the next family who will introduce the other families that's coming up to be indoctrinated. Butch Stewart, father of Gil Barber, who was killed by Guilford County, North Carolina Sheriff's deputy on May 18, 2001. Thank you so much for being with us, Gilbert.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. My name is Calvert Stewart. I'm Gilbert's father. He died May 18th, 2001, killed by Guilford County Sheriff here in North Carolina. I'm going to kind of deviate from what was being said because I'm going to try to introduce something else that a lot of people are kind of overlooking, but they think about it, but they overlook it. Many of us are aware of the lies and uncovered by the police department all across this nation. There need to be, their need to legitimize their killings and other abuses are not new to anyone. We are aware of their policy of slander of the victims and the families to deflect from their wrongdoing. I guess you have to stay with me a little bit on this. It's been a while since I've been able to did this. I wrote this statement, and I'm gonna read it to you. And it look like I'm going to sleep, but I'm gonna read the statement to you. On October 8th, 2001, a deputy involved in the shooting sued us for defamation and distress. He attempted to make himself feel as though he was the victim. He can't possibly know what distress feels like. He has taken the life of our son and gotten the department to legitimize their role and his role in the killing of Gilbert. During the same time, they had a decent, during this time, I should say, we haven't had a decent night or day since his murder. The sheriff slandered Gil and the family on radio, papers, and they see no wrong in what they do or say. The sad thing is that the public believes most of what comes from them. Since the murder of Gilbert, many things have changed in the way that law enforcement handles killings by cops, but many things stay the same. I would like to briefly touch on a subject that is on my mind constantly after someone is murdered by law enforcement. This topic is rarely brought up, and I think it's a very important topic to discuss with family members and family friends and trusted friends mostly. It is called grieving. When my son was murdered by the deputy of Guilford County, I didn't grieve. I didn't have time to grieve. I was busy trying to get answers from the sheriff's department. Many of you know what I'm talking about, but we didn't receive any believable answers. It took me about 4 years to actually feel the pain associated with the death of Gilbert to set in. That is when I realized that I had a problem. I was binge eating, gained weight, couldn't sleep, and I was working at night as a truck driver, so no sleep. I knew that was going to work. That's when I decided to seek professional help. When family members are killed by law enforcement, the surviving family members often find themselves in the depths and of despair, helplessness, hopelessness, and often isolated. Families that have suffered from the loss of a loved one at the hands of law enforcement bear the burden that is not suffered by others who mourn the loss of a loved one. Surviving family members and loved ones of victims of abuse and death by law enforcement are often treated as though they are guilty of some unspoken crime. Parents are treated like they have failed as parents. Siblings and parents are thought of as guilty by association. Children see their families publicly demonized and suffer rejection by some of their peers. Media coverage of the killings and other efforts by survivors to get justice almost always cast the survivors in a negative light, as police speak negatively to the press about the victims and their surviving loved ones. All of this compounds the stress and trauma of the ones who are already grieving and creating some isolation that is hard to break. After law enforcement kills someone kill a loved one. It also is given time to reflect on the killing, time off, desk duty, and given access to professional counseling at no cost to the officer. At the same time, the family and the friends of the victims are not given that privilege to get counseling to help them through the grieving process. While communities and governments say they are trying to mend relationships between law enforcement and the public, they are not addressing the big problem, mental health. The lack of attention given to this mental health of the families and friends of victims of law enforcement abuses is non-existent. By not treating or addressing the mental health issues these families members, By not treating and addressing the mental health issues of these family members and friends, the resentment and distrust is left to fester in the minds of those innocent victims of law enforcement. Until this problem has been addressed, there will be no or little advancement of the mending of the divided relationship between citizens and law enforcement. I've been in contact with several families here in North Carolina and across the country that is dealing with the struggles involving the loss of loved ones by law enforcement and no help from the authorities. If I wasn't a military veteran, I don't know where I could have gotten the help I needed. But I still have the resentment, distrust for law enforcement, but I'm dealing with it just a little bit better today. Along with adult family members that may be having difficulty dealing with the death, children are most likely affected by the death. When talking to children about the death of a loved one, keep in mind that honesty, compassion, and above all, love are essential. Some people, meaning well or being hateful, will say the wrong things at this time. When talking with families that have suffered from police abuses, remember that if you don't know what to say to a person or family, say nothing. Just be a good listener. Grief takes as long as it takes to adjust to the changes in your life after your loss. For months, even years, grief has no timetable. Thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and other responses may come in a wide range of feelings and symptoms and symptoms. While you are feeling shock, numbness, sadness, anger, guilt, anxiety, or fear, you will also find moments of relief, peace, happiness, and happiness. Make no mistake, grieving can lead to depression. If you think you need professional help, do all you can to get it. There's no right way or wrong way to grieve. And I need people to think about that while they are talking to these families. And families, I pray with you, and I agree with you that it's long since passing that they need to get more of these killer cops off the street. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to read that statement. Critical statement. Some action steps are there. Definitely some steps for healing, steps for revealing this unjust system even further. We appreciate the time that you took to share that. And none of us are falling asleep. We're up. We stay up. We need this information to arm ourselves and to be ready to continue to fight for justice for all stolen lives. There are a few more names. Jerome Reed, Kashad Ashford, Abdul Kamal, Earl Faison, Breonna Taylor, and Yolanda's here representing Jacque Graham, and there's also justice for Marcus Golden. So I wanted to make sure that we're a good community here, and we acknowledge the people that are here putting names and saying, Ibaye Ashe, Presente, and your struggles here with us, and we're in solidarity with each other. Right now, I'd like to call up King Downing, lawyer, amazing musician as well, people's advocate, organizer with the October 22nd Coalition, producer and host of Good Morning Nueva York, presenting certificates to Marilyn Covarrubias, mother of Daniel Covarrubias, as well as Antonio Armstrong and Stonechild Chiefstick.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it, and I'm always sorry at the same time that we have to keep going through this, but we're going to keep going through it, and we're not going to stop. I want to thank the families, all of you. My condolences. I'm tired of comforting people. I'm tired of offering to help, but we're going to keep on doing it as long as we need to. I want to thank the organizers, and I especially want to thank the cultural workers. You know what these programs would be like if we didn't have people telling us the truth in ways that we're open to, because our eyes and ears are open to culture. And with that, I really want to respect the time that we have. And so I'm going to just say some quick things, and then I'm going to get right to this. And that's just to give a little background. Thank you, Spirit Child. He's an example of the cultural workers I'm talking about. Support the culture that supports you. A lot of times people are very critical of the art form. They don't like this form of hip hop, or they don't like that. Well, put your resources and your money and your time into the artists that are saying what you like and are getting your backs. So I'm a longtime member and supporter of the Stolen Lives Project and the October 22nd Coalition against police brutality and the criminalization of a generation. And also have been part of the sorry, I got a cat actually who wants to take part in all this, of the People's Program, which has trained organizations in how to deal with policing, how to set up structures in your community and advocate. I'm also a lawyer. If any of you have any legal questions, and those can be questions about what your lawyer is telling you. I'm not trying to replace that lawyer. I'm available to you. I'll put my information up in the chat. If you have a foundation, I might be able to help you grow your foundation, help it get its legal structure set up. If you want to start a legal foundation or some other kind of structure or nonprofit, I can help you with that. I don't charge for families who are doing this kind of work or people who are supporting them. And so I'll leave it at that. Oh, last but not least, I'm also a producer and host on WBAI Radio. That's community radio, a nonprofit 6-station network that has been one of the first and primary people and organizations covering police brutality. My show is called Good Morning Nueva York. I've had many of you families on, and I'm going to also be putting my email in the chat. And I like to bring families on during 2 times. One is during the birthdays of our lost ones, and the other is during the anniversaries of the taking of their lives. And so if those are rolling around, or if you have a special event that's going on, let me know and I'll do my best to fit you in the schedule. So I just want to urge, before I go to the first family, that we all have to support each other. And I'm going to urge the families to become members of organizations, even if you have your own, to begin to put together a collection of families working together across the country. And there are groups that support, like POP, which I consider myself a longtime member to, October 22nd. But it's important for the families to come up with their own structure and work together, like the ones that meet in Newark all the time. So now I want to get to the first family. And I'm just going to say just a real brief thing, and I want to leave it to the family. So the first one is Shernalaria Eccles, who's the mother of Antonio C. Armstrong, killed by the NYPD on October 6, 2021. And I present this certificate to you. It's been read again and again. So the Stolen Lives Project
They could see you. They could see your ear.
The Stolen Lives Project is recognizing you by presenting this certificate for you. And I will just ask one thing, Shernalaria, if you would just, because I believe that all the victims should be humanized, and we tend to hear is date of death, here's what happened, here's what the police did. Could you just take a moment, tell us Antonio's birthday, and tell us one thing about him in life that would humanize him before you go with the rest of your presentation? Thank you.
I don't know. Can't hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
I don't know. I can't hear anything. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Something's wrong with my microphone that I can't put it on speaker. But my name is Chanelaria Eckles. My son Antonio C. Armstrong was murdered on October 6, 2021. What officers I can't even explain who and how. All I know that there were snipers involved. There were also drones involved. He was killed inside his girlfriend's home, which we don't even know how they knew to even go there to look for him, because that's not his address. I'm actually fighting for justice for him because the police called me on October 6th that morning around 10 to tell me that they wanted to negotiate with him. I'm lost for words because the fact that they said suicide, my son was never suicidal. He had his life planned. He just released his video for a music that he just started. He's been writing music since he was 13 years old. So the fact that the NYPD is saying suicide and looking at the evidence and finally being able to get his body after 3 weeks after he was killed and seeing how brutalized his body was is why I cannot accept suicide. Um, it looked like they cut his body up and stitched in places where no one would be able to notice that it was suicide, as well as the bullet in his head. The bullet in his head doesn't look like a self-inflicted wound. So the fact that they're trying to say he died from a self-inflicted wound, and up to today, being almost 2 months tomorrow, we're still being told that his case is being investigated. So for me, if it was suicide, there shouldn't be an investigation. They should not have held his girlfriend in the building stairwell for 4 hours. His body was not taken out of the apartment for 4 hours. They finally removed his body at 2 p.m. when he supposedly had died 9:30, 10 o'clock that morning. But the death certificate is saying his time of death is 10:43 a.m., which only shows that there was a lot of brutality done in that apartment. He died suffering. His eyes were open, that he was in shock. So for all of this, I want justice for my baby. He left here with 2 children, three months and 13 months, who are now 15 months and 5 months. And this is a loss of words for me because he had his life planned. He was fighting for his children. He wanted to be away from his baby mother, and none of that stuff happened. And me as his mother, he always said to me that he got me, and at this moment I got him. And I cannot grieve until I get answers. Thank you.
Thank you for that. My condolences again. And I look forward to getting the latest on your efforts to get justice in this situation. I'll now go directly to the second family that I'm going to be presenting to. And we are going to be presenting to Marilyn Covarrubias. She's the mother of Daniel Covarrubias, who was killed by the Lakewood, Washington Police Department on April 21st, 2015. And I'm going to ask you the same thing that I just asked our last mother. If you would tell us Daniel's birthday and something about him to humanize him before we get into the details of what the police did. Thank you. And I present this certificate to you and welcome you into this family.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, yes, my son's name is Daniel Covarrubias. He was born on November the 23rd, 20. He was born in on 1977. I'm sorry. Should I read what I've got here?
Yes, please go ahead. However you want to move forward, the floor is yours.
The day my child was murdered by Lakewood, Washington police officers David Butts and Ryan Hamilton, not to mention their accomplices, who right after they shot Daniel 7 times, started a campaign of lies, character assassination, and villainization of the victim, who was Daniel Covarrubias. But this is the truth. Daniel went to the hospital that day because he had a motorcycle accident a few days earlier and was in severe pain. He had a concussion, a broken collarbone, and some broken ribs. He was in pain and in crisis, and he was having hallucinations. I believe that were caused by the pain. I was at work, and so Daniel decided to walk home from the hospital when he decided to cut through a lumber yard a few blocks from home. And he laid down, and the employees at the lumber yard seen that he was in crisis and called 911 and asked them to send help. But instead of help that was called for, death came in the guise of David Butts and Ryan Hamilton. The doctor who called and told me what happened, because the police did not call me and tell me what happened. He told me to get to the hospital as soon as I could. The police shot and killed Daniel within seconds. And within seconds, my only son was ripped away from me. Daniel died in my arms at the hospital. Right after, a sad and tearful doctor said he tried to keep him alive long enough for me to say goodbye. My life and my happiness died in my arms. Daniel's life was stripped away from me. There are so many stories like mine. Daniel was killed holding his cell phone. Leonard Thomas was holding his child. Charlena was killed when she called for help. Stone Child was holding a screwdriver. Herbert was trying to raise his family after he had gotten out of prison. Renee was in a mental crisis. We can't keep allowing men to do evil because they have a gun and a badge. Men who set themselves up as judge, jury, and executioner. They can wash the blood off physically, but they cannot wash the stain from their souls. We must work on this together. This has to be a nationwide endeavor. We have to try and pull together and change the laws. Otherwise, this is going to continue. Right now, in the state of Washington, the WCPA, which is the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability, is trying to work on a House bill called 1507. It will have an independent prosecutor and an independent office of investigations to go side by side, because it is now the county prosecutors and law enforcement agencies who work too closely. These agencies work too closely, and they can only be seen as a conflict and raise big concerns about bias and nepotism. It is a conflict of interest and power that can be used for political gain. The most important thing I see is true justice for the people around the nation, and the people of Washington can be achieved by an independent process that is put in the executive branch, is about the most fair process that can be achieved. I want to thank you for having me here today. And I send my love to everyone out there, all of you who have lost yourself, lost your life, your children's lives, or your family's life.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. We appreciate what you've
Thank
said today and what you've read. Resonates very true with us and what we're doing here, organizing. We definitely have to make it national, and it's also international. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here with our brothers and sisters in Europe, and I do want to call a few names of people who have been killed, Black, Brown, Indigenous people, by local law enforcement, the state, and just police. Mauda Shari, Jasmine Mais, Mehdi Bauda, Abdil Ibrahima, Solami Jasmith, Mohammed Sauli, Samaraya, and many, many others. There's a lot of people here organizing against this pandemic. And we also want to make sure that we acknowledge Travis Posel. The mother will be speaking later this afternoon, evening, who was killed by Rock Springs, Wyoming police on May 28th, 2004. And again, that's Travis Posel, Ibaye Ashe. And I also want to make sure that we acknowledge one of our core generals and give some healing vibrations to Juanita Young, who is currently in the hospital and can use your energy, your prayers, your meditative support and focus in. So please, if you know her, say a prayer. If you don't know her, please say a prayer anyway. There is in the chat, King put his information. I really strongly encourage the families. I know it's hard to make more statements or to get the message or word out there. King mentioned on the birthday or the anniversary or commemoration of their death to be on his show, Good Morning Nueva York, WBAI. It's an opportunity to organize and bring the people together. I also want to thank once again the people who are working so hard that you see them switching off. We have Ibrahim and Rashida, who are ASL translators for today. We're so pleasured and honored to have you with us. Thank you so much. And at this moment, as King mentioned, culture is a weapon. And some people feel that, I ain't say it, but when music hits, you feel no pain. It's very therapeutic. And this person I'm going to call up today is a music therapist. Key Slaughter, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, composer, and of course, music therapist. Music is therapy. I can't wait to hear what you have to offer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you all so much. What a delight, to be here. Such an honor. I appreciate the warm introduction, the invitation, for such a deeply important ritual and ceremony to remember, to honor those lost, stolen by police violence and state-sanctioned violence. My heart goes out to all the families, all the communities, and the loved ones of those individuals whose names have been called in and those who have yet to be called in to this space. My name is Key, and I'm just here to share some music. I do believe that music is therapeutic, it's healing, or it can be a vehicle for activation around justice, around transformation, and a space to hold our deepest sorrows and losses, and through to our greatest joys. So I'm just here to play some songs in my own way, and I hope you enjoy. This first song is a freedom song that I want to dedicate to the lives who are being remembered today. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you. This is an original song called Sweetwater. Wash over me, sweet water of grace and peace. Wash over me, sweet water, set me free. Wash over me, sweet water, bathe me in light. Wash over me, sweet water, give me light. Do da 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 Wash over me, sweet water of grace and peace. Wash over me, sweet water, set me free. Wash over me, sweet water, bathe me in light. wash over me. Sweet water, give me life. Sweet water, set me free. Sweet water, set me free. Sweet water, set me free. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I can see the healing and feel it. The vibrations. Hopefully the family is feeling that as well right now.
Yeah, thank you all. Take care. My heart is with you.
Right on. Thank you, Keith Slaughter, once again, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, as well as music therapist. Music does heal. I do want to shout out and give respects once again, Lumi, for holding us down on the production StreamYard tip, making all this smooth. It's so smooth today. So thank you so much for keeping it smooth. Always when you're behind the boards, it works out very well. Appreciate it. And of course, Kathy, she's out there doing the thing and helping me with the programming, seeing who's up next. And always, as y'all know who Kathy Cheng is, just an amazing, yay, what up, Kathy? Had to give you a shout out because I know you're always behind. You're very much in front in our hearts all the time. I want to keep it moving, and thank you all for being present with us. You can be anywhere, and you chose to be here with us to honor, to commemorate the lives that are stolen, and to welcome the new families that we haven't met into this community of organizing and just healing and holding each other. Right now, I'd like to bring up Michelle Gross, President of Communities United Against Police Brutality in Minneapolis, presenting certificates to the families of Marcus Golden, Jafford Smith, and Justin Tegan. How you feeling, Michelle?
Thank you so much for having me. How are you? Good, good. And I'm delighted to be here. I'm extremely proud to be here and to stand with all of the families of stolen lives. Our organization, Communities United Against Police Brutality, is just starting our 22nd year now, but we've been involved in the Stolen Lives at Work and the October 22nd organizing since the very, very beginning. And during 2000, when we were having our Stolen Lives protest, or our October 22nd protest, a few days later, one of the people who spoke at our meeting, at our event, was killed by the police himself. And that caused us to form our own organization that would address police brutality 24/7, 365, and to provide aid and assistance to people dealing with the effects of police brutality, as well as working to end police brutality, and excessive force by police and police violence. And so it gives me great pleasure to be able to introduce you to three very important Minnesota families who have been working to end police violence and who are working for justice for their own family members. All three of these family members have their family members were killed by the St. Paul police. And while most people have heard about the Minneapolis police because, of course, George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, all of the, the kind of publicity around the Minneapolis police, what most people don't realize is that the St. Paul police are both the deadliest police department in our state, but they are also the 14th deadliest in the country. And so we have serious problems here in the state of Minnesota, and I work daily and am proud to work with the moms and family members of the people who you're going to be meeting in just a moment. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to read a certificate that will be the same language for all three of the families, and so I'm going to read it that way. But you'll hear first from Monique Cullers-Doty, who is the aunt of Marcus Golden. And on December 5th, 2021, the name of Marcus Golden is formally entered into the Stolen Lives Project joining tens of thousands of people killed by law enforcement in the United States since 1990. These victims who are gathered together in death shout out from their graves for justice. Over 1,000 are killed by official violence, and by that I mean law enforcement violence, every year. These victims, whose lives have been viciously cut short, are all lives and families and were real parts of our society. But rarely are their lives or their names published, nor are their real circumstances surrounding their deaths caused by law enforcement made known. Their lives, their stories, their faces are gathered in the Stolen Lives by the Stolen Lives Project by demand of the living to tell the truth and to have their stories and their lives be known. For that, we refuse to allow Marcus to be forgotten or to have lived in vain. In his name, we will stop this national epidemic. And with that, I introduce you to Monique Colors-Doty.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that introduction. And thank you to everyone who worked to put this program together. I can't imagine how much time and effort it took to bring such an amazing and healing and touching event together. So thank you for extending your grace to Marcus and our other families that are here as well. I was just very honored to have my nephew counted in this organization and the groups of other people that are working on this topic. So thank you so much for the opportunity as well. My nephew Marcus Golden was 24 years old when he was murdered by St. Paul police officers Jeremy Doberspike and Dan Peck. Everything, if you look it up, everything you see in the press and in the media pretty much is going to be a lie. Well, actually, it is a lie. The original recording, the 911 call, has been deleted and a new one has been presented. And based on this new recording, the incident was literally 63 seconds. Someone called who did not know Marcus, said his car was in the back of the parking lot. That's how it originally happened. And Marcus was dead. I'm sorry, 46 seconds is what it is. So we know that recording is just too short. They killed my nephew about 2:30 in the morning. And they took several hours, I guess, trying to spin their lies of how they were going to do this, because my nephew was parked in the back of an apartment complex, so it was very isolated. The apartment complex sits on a hill, and it has a narrow parking lot in the back, which is a dead end. There's only one way in and one way out. So Marcus was back there at a place where his ex-girlfriend was living, and she was leaving town the next day, and it looks like he had things in his car that he was trying to return to her. But he had been targeted by St. Paul police before. He had been beat by St. Paul police before, and he was saying he was going to file a lawsuit against St. Paul police. So he didn't live long enough to do that because they killed him, right? And I know other stolen lives who had lawsuits going against the police department, and they were killed before they could continue their fight for justice for what happened previously. So that was Marcus's case. So when Marcus was killed, he died across the street from St. Paul Region's Trauma Center. And I say across the street because he was never taken there. He was shot in the back of the head and in the back of his arm while he was in his vehicle. The officers arrived. They did not have their lights on, and they did not call in to report that they were responding to the call from someone who did not know Marcus and said on the original call, "I just don't want him back there." Okay. And it was someone who his girlfriend had been dating. So not someone who did not know him, but the 911 operator said, "Oh, is he armed?" And the guy said, "I don't know." So she keeps asking questions. "Well, if he was armed, where would he have a gun? Where would it be?" He's like, "I don't know." She said, "Well, would it be in a glove compartment? Would it be, where would it be?" And he's like, "I don't know." But she keeps asking these questions. So my nephew was unarmed for 11 hours. Took 11 hours to find a gun in his car. So as part of the cover up, what St. Paul police did, they went to my sister. They called her on her phone to see where she was. How did they have her cell phone number? Because my sister, Marcus's mother, had been a reserve volunteer officer with the St. Paul Police Department for 21 years when they killed her son. And they took her phone, they took her purse, and what did they do? They tried to get her committed on a psych ward. She couldn't call anyone, she couldn't tell anyone what happened. This is St. Paul Police buying time. So next thing we know, didn't know he was dead. St. Paul Police show up at my parents' house. My father was in the hospital at the time. My mother, she's elderly. They came in, just invaded the house. And by the time I got there, another team of officers were coming with a search warrant. What they did was they went into my nephew's room. They blocked me. They would not let me come down the hall. And I know that you have the right, if it's in your home, to watch, if the officers are searching. So they blocked me. And what they did, they staged Marcus's room to look like he was suicidal. The police, because they knew my sister, Marcus's older brother, had committed suicide 5 months to the date of when Marcus was killed. There were people who made T-shirts with his brother's pictures on it and some photos they printed up and some artwork. Marcus asked me, what he should do with it. And I asked him to just put it in the closet because it was really hard for my mother to see those things with her grandson's picture on. I said, can you just store all that stuff in the closet in your room? He said, okay, sure. Because, Marcus would do anything I asked him to. I mean, I'm his aunt, I'm not his mother, but I was like a second mom to him, and he was like a son to me. The police went in and staged the room to make it look like a shrine to his brother, hung up the shirts around the room, put the photos up, the pretty large prints that some people had done, put those up around the rooms, the drawings, put them up all around the room, took pictures, and used that picture to put on the front page of the St. Paul Pioneer Press, saying that it was suicide by cop, along with another falsified incident that had happened, complete lies. In the report, they lied and said my sister told them he always wanted to kill a cop. It was just crazy what they did. So there's so much more I could go into, but I think you're all familiar with how it works. So St. Paul Police believed that they were going to get away with everything. And because they lied so much, I'm just so thankful that organizations like Michelle's, Communities United Against Police Brutality, and Black Lives Matter Minneapolis, and some other organizations stood up for us and helped us to get his name out, for me to be able to tell his truth and move forward. So for many years, it didn't look like Marcus was going to have a lawyer, going to have a case, simply because a lawyer told me you need about $250,000 for an investigation, which I didn't have. So I just kept supporting other families. And I'm so thankful for the community that I work with, and that Michelle's group did an investigation, and we've been able to prove so much. Pretty much everything about the St. Paul Police Department report was wrong. And they've helped me file a lawsuit against the St. Paul Police Department. And we are continually just finding out Marcus did not try to run over the officers, which I knew he didn't do that. Thankfully, in Minnesota, there was snow on the ground. We could, use the tracks. That's one thing that has helped. The tracks where the, bullet shells landed, St. Paul Police lied. Just like you see, they lied about the other two cases that Michelle's going to introduce. So I'm just thankful for the support. And I just want to encourage all the families who are here, just keep going. I know we have had a case here, it was Jamar Clark, and his father said, we may not get justice for Jamar, but we will get justice through Jamar. So every police killing, every homicide, every lie they tell just brings us closer to change, because it allows us to unite. It allows us to join and come in community where we can continue to rise up and push and fight and demand change. So I stand in solidarity with all stolen lives and all oppressed people of the United States and of the world, that we can come together and make true change, stand up against a system of oppression and racism that is America, that is our history. And the history of the police is what? They were created to what? Kill and chase and find escaped enslaved African people and indigenous people who were so-called troublemakers for settlers. So we still see the large number of African American people, people of African descent, and indigenous people and people of color who were killed in America. So thank you for having this space for me to share Marcus's truth and to hear other people share the truth about their loved one, because we know blue lies, Lies, matter. And the police do not tell the truth about our loved ones. So we must tell it for them. So I just encourage everyone, continue to be strong and tell the truth for your loved one. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Monique. And I want to just add that Monique, I met her in this, shortly after Marcus had been killed, almost immediately. And she took to the streets immediately to demand justice, not just for her nephew or, Marcus, but for everybody who has experienced a stolen life. So she has been in the streets ever since. And in fact, she introduced me to the next person who's going to speak, Matilda Ann Smith, who is the mother of Jafford Smith. Jafford, and Matilda will tell you more about him, but he was killed on December 5th, 2021. And his wife was a friend of mine and became a closer friend after Jafford was killed. And in fact, we worked together. She eventually, and sadly, killed herself because she was so overwrought by the death of her husband, and she was never able to get justice for him. And so she passed away as well. And so we also mark her as a stolen life. Her name was Kay Smith. And so with that, I introduce to you Matilda Ann Smith, mother of Jafford Smith. Matilda, I think you're muted. Matilda, I think you might have to check because I think you're muted. So we'd love to hear what you have to say. So please, if you can unmute yourself. I think what we'll do is try to come back to Matilda based on, her dealing with her technology issue. So I'd like to now introduce you to a very amazing individual, just as amazing as the other two folks you've already met. And her name is Tashira Garraway Allen. And Tashira is the fiance of Justin Tegan, who was taken from us again by the St. Paul police. But Tashira did not just sort of agonize over what had happened to her loved one and her the father of her son. Instead, she organized. And what she is doing is she operates the organization Families Supporting Families Against Police Violence, which is a support group for the families of people killed by police. And so her work has become an absolute inspiration here in the Twin Cities. She's doing amazing work, and she is boosting up and lifting up all of the families in the state of Minnesota whose loved ones were taken by the police. And so with that, I'm very proud to introduce to you to Shira Garraway Allen.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me pretty good? I hope you guys can hear me. Can you hear me, Michelle? Okay, awesome. So, as Michelle said, yes, my name is Tashira Garraway, and I was engaged to Justin Tegan, who was murdered by the St. Paul police. I also share a now 15-year-old son, Justin Jr., who was 3 years old at the time when Justin was murdered by the St. Paul police. On August 19, 2009, Justin had went out with some friends, um, and they went out for a friend's birthday. Justin, that night after he went over to Perkins, in a popular area here in St. Paul at that time. When he left Perkins, he got pulled over by the police, and I remember a young lady saying that the police went around her to pull him over. And one thing that we noticed in Justin's situation is that he had been pulled over multiple times before they actually took his life. And we noticed the same pattern for a lot of the men that are murdered. We noticed that even the next person that's going to speak, Matilda Smith, as well as like the cases that you may have heard of, like Orlando, is still prior to our loved ones being murdered. It's a continuous where they are being pulled over, harassed. Even for someone like Jamar Clark, he like Monique said, he had a lawsuit against the the Minneapolis police, but they had beat him up prior to that, them killing him. And the same way they had did Justin is that a week before they actually murdered Justin, they had pulled him over and checked his car, didn't find anything. And they took him to jail for disorderly conduct, but they were punching him, they were hitting him. And he came home and told me about this. And he said they were very angry when they seen that he was getting released from jail. And then 7 days later, my son's father ended up brutally beat to death. He had dog bites on his body. His wrist was detached from his arms. You could see where he had the handcuffs on. His skull was cracked in half. His eyes were like very badly punched, so you could see the swelling in his eyes from being hit. It was a number. It was the most inhumane thing I had ever seen. I was 23 years old and Justin was 24 when he was murdered, and that was the worst that I had ever seen in my entire life. The way that he was brutalized, I couldn't believe it. And his murder was a cover up here in the state of Minnesota. Um, and it's happened over and over again where they kill our loved ones. After they kill our loved ones, they target their character to make our loved ones seem as if they're these horrible people that are not needed in society anyway, because they're these quote unquote horrible people. But I suppose that they have to do that to justify their murders. But the problem is you could never justify. My son's father, Justin, was found in a dumpster. They beat him to death and threw his body inside of a trash dumpster. And he was once they beat him and threw him in the trash dumpster, the dump truck came the next morning. And when the dump truck came the next morning, it was picked up and it was drove out. The garbage that Justin was in, or the recycling that he was in, ended up in a Allied Waste Management out in Evergrove Heights, Minnesota. And of course, that's where it all gets sorted through. It, and it's even hard, like right now, like just looking at his picture, and knowing that I had a life with him, knowing that we have a son together, knowing that these people, they murder our loved ones and they just go on with their lives. And I just think that it's so important that our families truly stick together, because these people, they have a system. And when I say they have a system, I mean that they have the BCA, they have the forensic pathologists, they have the police departments. They have, and the BCA are the people that are here in Minnesota that are supposed to investigate any murders that are committed by police, whether they were unjustified or justified. Either way it go, the BCA, the Bureau Criminal of Apprehension, are the people that are supposed to investigate the police. However, instead of investigating, they help to cover up the murders at the hands of police, because these are old police that are now working in a entity that is supposed to be investigating, but that's not what happens at all. And so I even in my son's father's case, I even have pictures of the head of the BCA, Drew Evans. He's standing over my son's father's body. And he's all throughout the reports, but he's in many reports, and there's just simply not an investigation that are being done for these murders. But I go back to say that it is important that our families stick together so that we have a system, because they actually have a system in place. They have a whole group of people, even people that are not a part of the murders. They weren't there. Like, the BCA isn't there to commit the murders, but they're willing to help cover it up. The forensic pathologists, the people who do the autopsy, they're not there for the murder, but they're willing to help cover up the murder. So they have a whole system behind them. And that's why I think it's so important that our families across all of the states, because we're working really hard here in Minnesota to have that unity. Of our family sticking together, but I would love to see it all over everywhere. And I'm really thankful for Michelle Gross with Communities United Against Police Brutality, because she actually was one of the first people to initiate that unity. She does the event every year where all the families come together to eat together. And that's where I ended up meeting a lot of the families. So when I did start the support group, I already had a relationship with a lot of the families because of Communities United Against Police Brutality, where I was coming out to these meetings and these dinners and meeting a lot of the families, along with other families like Miss Kim Handy Jones, where she would have the national event. But it was really good to have something where we met more frequently. And we really need the support. And I think I'll say this and then I'll close out. I don't want to drag for too long, but I'll just say that when I talk about a system that our families that lost loved ones need to have, we need to be able to come and support each other, and um, we need to be able to, I think, just come together and go to the Capitol, go to the Capitol here in the state of Minnesota, all together collectively, um, and let them know this is not going to continue, and make our way into those meetings where they think they're going to have their discussions for legislation and not pass the laws that we need passed. We need these people to be held accountable. The statute of limitation for wrongful death needs to be abolished in all states. If families can prove that their loved ones was murdered unjustly, every state needs a law or a bill written to say the statute of limitation for wrongful death needs to be eliminated, or at least expanded. But I would say eliminated altogether. If the family can prove that their loved one was murdered unjustly, why should there be a time limit on when they can fight for justice? And they lost so much, not just the murder part, but people lose everything almost sometimes when their loved ones are murdered. They go homeless and all kinds of stuff. They should be able to collect those damages. So these are things that we started off, Family Support and Family started off as a support group, but we are expanding to so much more as far as doing legislation, and Communities United Against Police Brutality helps us with that, helps us get our bills together. And Michelle has helped even Communities United Against Police Brutality has helped so much with the investigations for our families. And it just means so much to be a part of this, and know that I'm not out here alone anymore like I was for many years before I came in collaboration with Monique and Michelle and Miss Kim Handy Jones and all of the other mothers, Jafford Smith mother who's going to speak next. Before I came into this community, I literally was really fighting by myself, and it was very scary. So I'm very grateful to be just a part of this and just helping and figuring out where I can help and where I can do my part towards change. Thank you all so much for having me and listening to my story about Justin Tegan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shashira, and my apologies for that. But thank you so much. And one of the elements that we know is a big issue for police killings of our family members is people dealing with mental health crisis. One of the things that our organization was able to do is we got a law passed in Minnesota in the last legislative cycle that requires mental health crisis calls to be sent to mental health crisis responders and not police. And so this is very important because people experiencing mental health crisis are 16 times more likely to be killed by police than any other population. And so this is a way to try to address these kinds of situations. And so with that, I want to introduce Matilda Smith, who's, as I mentioned before, her son Jafford Smith was killed also by St. Paul police. And he was living with mental health crisis at the time. And so with that, I would like to turn this over to Matilda Ann Smith. And Matilda?
Hello. Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to the Stolen uh, Family Project, and I thank you all for having me so much. My son Jafford was murdered May 9th, 2016 in a residential area on the east side of St. Paul, Minnesota. Behind the house with the family of a husband and wife and children. Jafford was shot many times, left behind this house for over 14 hours with his pants pulled down to his foot. Police news and newspapers demonized my son while police tried to cover it up. They had a grand jury, but with the grand jury of just the police and the DA and a jury. No witness was there, nor were family members there. For a grand jury, members wanted those officers convicted. Jafford was profiled and targeted, stopped by the police on a weekly basis. He told me they wanted him to be an informant or snitcher. He also told me that they were going to kill him. My family will never be the same, and I will never stop fighting for all stolen lives. We are experiencing government corruption here in the state of Minnesota, prosecutorial misconduct, and I see them as thugs and criminals. And they're allowed to get away with it. And it's been going on for decades. We've been dealing with statutory or wrongful death. It needs to be eliminated. Qualified immunity needs to be eliminated. Jafford had a wife, a son, granddaughter, brother, and sister. His wife took her own life a few days before Christmas last year because she couldn't go on without him. His sister and brother would never be the same without him. His son went through a mental breakdown, so it hadn't been easy for my family. The police that killed Jafford Smith's name was John Cochran, Mark Grunhauser, Jeff Corris, Michael Teixeira. And these cops were justified for killing my son. And they said they killed him because he shot a woman. Well, I got audio that proves that he didn't shoot anyone. My son was murdered, and his whole case, they tried to cover it up. Thank you all for hearing my story, and I would like to tell the other families that I am praying for them. I'm praying for justice. I'm praying for justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matilda, Tashira, Monique, for telling your stories and sharing the campaign work and the victories that you have as well. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the community that you're fostering and continue to foster. Strong organizers out there in Minnesota, as well as New Jersey. Ingrid, Baba Zaid, the people working on the ground, doing a lot of work. I know she put in the chat earlier, put the organizations that you're working with against police brutality, against police terrorism, injustice, the criminalization of our youth, etc. So please do put that in the chat so we can have resources. Thank you also to October 22nd Coalition, Stolen Lives Project, Revolutionary Communist Party, the Cop Watch, Justice Coalition committees, like all the people that are organizing throughout the many decades against this. Obviously, the Black Panthers, Young Lords, Iwakin, the original Rainbow Coalition. So I want to thank and acknowledge all of them as well. And right now, we'll bring up another cultural worker, warrior, using culture as a weapon, traveling the world, all over worldwide. My brother, another mother. Peace, peace. Welcome. Always good to see your face, brother.
Power, spirit, love, and blessings all to all y'all who are gathered here in this cyber cipher right now. I just wanted to just send you each a hug, you know, and just pause for a second and to know that throughout this painful experience of sharing our testimonies, and there's so much that comes through us, so much rage, so much pain, and so much grief. And so I want us to pause and just really can focus a little bit of love to each other. Imagine us giving a big, strong embrace to each other, knowing that through the power of energy, of spirit, prayer, that we can do that we are not alone. And again, my name is Luai of the Peace Poets. I want to start with a song that we actually have done that I know our sister Jayanti has brought to the streets of Minnesota, so seeing our relatives from Minnesota, I want to send this one out to you all, knowing your loved ones are with us. We sing this song. We have not come here alone. We carry our people in our bones. That's right. We have not come here alone. And if you listen, you can hear them in our souls. Sing that with me. We have not come here alone. We carry our people. We carry our people in our bones. That's right. We have not come here alone. And if you listen, you can hear them in our soul. Thank y'all so much for bringing your people into this space, for telling those stories, for making us feel their presence and call out the injustices. This is so powerful, and we can feel it. We can feel it as we hear you, and people around you can feel it. They feel your courage. They're inspired by you. And so this next song, I want to think about what Mr. Stewart asked us earlier. He said we have to grieve. We have to let the pain come out from inside of us. And so I just want to let this grief song come through. Please, if you could join me in singing it, I invite you to sing it out. The words are very simple. It goes like this. Open the ocean wide in us. Open the ocean wide. And take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. You can let it out. Ready? Open the ocean wide in us. Open the ocean wide. Take all the pain. And take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. Open the ocean. Try that. Open the ocean wide in us. Open the ocean wide. Let it out. Take all the pain. And take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. Sing it now. Open the ocean. Open the ocean wide in us. Open the ocean wide. and take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. We sing, open the ocean wide in us, open the ocean wide, and take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. Do it one more time. We said, open the ocean wide in us, open the ocean wide, and take all the pain inside of us. Take all the pain inside. Thank you all so much. Thank you for grieving together, for singing together, for speaking, for breathing this prayer for justice. We love you. Sending everybody a big hug. Peace and gratitude.
Peace and gratitude back to you, and much love and hugs back to you, brother. Always good to see you, feel you, hear you, and resonate with your spirit and energy, especially manifesting through song. Thank you so much. I want to shout out again some of the families. Malcolm Ferguson, killed by NYPD on March 1st, 2000. Michael Mahoney, killed by Oxnard, California police, August 14th, 2012. Saeed Vasil, killed by NYPD on April 4th, 2018. Of course, we never forget Amadou Diallo, Nicholas Hayward Jr. I also want to say Ibaye Ashe to his father, who fought for justice until his very last breath. Nicholas Hayward Sr., you're always with us. Anthony Baez, Walter Wallace, who was killed by Philadelphia Police 2020, Eric Garner 2014, et cetera, et cetera. And if there's any other names that you want to put in the chat, please do go ahead. Ending Police Only Response to Mental Health Cause, put in the chat that they are working on to get the Travis law passed earlier this year that requires 911 to send mental health crisis responders instead of cops. So that's really important, as well as there's many campaigns to work on. When the police, they're suing the state or whatever the case is, it should come from their paychecks. It should come from their salaries. They should feel it. They should hear it. We should be protesting in their backyards. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do, tactics, and we'll get into that at some point. But I know there's a bunch of organizers here who understand and feel where I'm coming from. I'd like to bring up right now Teresi Gallagher, mother of Travis Posett, who was killed by Rock Springs, Wyoming police on May 28th, 2004. And she will be presenting a Stolen Lives commemoration and acknowledgement if she is present.
Peace, Brother Spirit. Unfortunately, Teresa is having some technical issues at the moment.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We are here for the technical issues. We'll just put up the fundraising pitch one more time. That's a good time for people to take a little break. There's a lot of culture, a lot of information. We're going to put in the chat one more time, please. Where we at? We're at 180 now. Oh, come on, people! I love y'all. I was having big dreams and big hopes. I said by the end of this program, we're going to triple that number of 400, and we got to get at least 12 to 1600 there. Come on. I think I guess it's saying that we only raised 180. So that means we got to share to our networks. Come on, this is part of organizing. Let's try to get this going if we can. If there isn't any other, I will ask my comrade Kathy Chang as far as what you would like me to do. I could present Latoya and bring Latoya on. Yes, okay, Latoya's coming up. Thank you, Kathy. See, what would I do without you? Latoya, Kathy, so much. Latoya Rules here, sibling of Wayne Fella Morrison, killed in custody of South Australian Correctional Services in September 2016. You are currently in this process right now, one of our first international acknowledgments on this program. So thank you for joining us. I don't know what time it is where you are. You can share, and please do share your story as well. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And you can hear me okay? Thumbs up, beautiful. So at the moment it's 8:38 a.m. I'm really, really privileged to be sitting here today on Gadigal land in Sydney, Australia. I want to extend that acknowledgement to my elders and the elders here on Gadigal land, and also the elders of Indigenous peoples from whose land everybody else is tuning in today. And of course, everybody's ancestors who come with us into these discussions as well, to be able to strengthen us through these processes. I want to thank Kathy Chang. Obviously, our relationship now has been going on for more than 5 years, and I'm really appreciative of this time, of all of you, all of the organisers and resistance fighters and warriors who have been doing this good work. And of course, I want to pay utmost respect to all of the mothers and siblings and other family members and support workers as well who are doing the work in fighting for justice. Please know that we are standing with you. My family and I are standing with you, and just send our greatest love as well, and would love to meet with you and connect. So I'm the youngest sibling of Wayne Fella Morrison. That image there is of Wayne at the front and my eldest brother, Buster, at the back. Wayne was a fisherman, a father, an artist. He was quite eccentric and creative. So he's my second eldest brother. As I said, I'm the youngest of 5. We grew up on Ghana land in Adelaide, South Australia. He was 29 years old when he was murdered by the state of South Australia. He spent 6 days on remand in Yatala prison. He had never been in custody before. He had never had any issues with police before. And essentially he was taken in, and by the Friday, the day that he was meant to be actually released into society back home, our family were waiting in court for his release and his video link-up call for a home detention bail application. And at the same time, we had heard much later on when we went to the intensive care unit at the hospital that he had been forcibly restrained after coming out of his cell to be walked to the video link room. He had 14 officers forcibly restrain him with a spit hood. His hands and feet were cuffed, and he was placed face down into a prison transport van with 8 officers inside. There were 5 at the back, or in the back of the transport van where he was on his stomach. And less than 3 minutes later, he was pulled out unconscious, and he never woke from that state. We had to turn off his life support machine 3 days later. And so, of course, from that moment, we began our resistance work. Obviously, throughout these last 5 years, so this year marked the 5th year anniversary of Wayne's death, we've been fighting to have his death reviewed. So for every Aboriginal death in custody in Australia, we have what's called we had in 1991 a Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. And now, since that Royal Commission, every Aboriginal death in custody means that we have a coronial inquiry into each death. And that could be through, obviously, police or prison custody. And so we've been going through his coronial inquest now for 5 years. That just ended this year, just 2 months ago. And we're waiting right now to hear the report and the findings passed down from the coroner of what happened to Wayne. But so far, that's all we know, as sadly in the state of South Australia, and I'm sure in Australia more widely, there is a law where officers and state, I mean, I guess it applies to everybody, but in our case, the officers have taken a pledge to silence. So they've taken up the right to silence against self-incrimination. So what that means is that when they showed up to court, the 8 officers inside the van refused to speak at all about what happened inside that van, though we know, of course, that when we saw Wayne in ICU, the bruises that were upon his body, we know that he suffered asphyxiation, suffocation. We know that, there were lacerations in different parts of his body. And so clearly the extent of brutality was so immense that he went and he was brain dead in ICU. And so working through that stage of resistance against, obviously, police and prison brutality here in Australia, we were able to get an inquiry, a parliamentary inquiry into South Australian prisons, and a review that went for a year. We were able to get an independent ombudsman's review into Wayne's death. That also showed unreasonable, obviously, duty of care wasn't taken into consideration. And we've been able to have a coroner's report thankfully, in the last year, in the final sitting dates of the coronial inquest into Wayne's death. We were advocating with a small team of resistance fighters here, all First Nations people. We advocated to the state of South Australia to ban spit hoods for the first time in Australia, and we were successful. So it was titled Fella's Bill after Wayne Fella Morrison. If people want to read more about that, hashtag Justice for Fella, Fella. We were successful in passing Fella's Bill in the upper and lower houses. And now moving forward from here, I'm going to be working out of Sydney, out of my office here at the University of Technology, Sydney, on a national ban. So far, we've had a federal parliamentarian, our First Nations parliamentarian from Victoria, raise the matter of a national ban on spit hoods. And we're hoping, that will be successful over the next 2 years, and that we can have a first national ban on spit hoods, I possibly think anywhere in the world. But at the moment, I know that there are other family members fighting against spit hoods, and I stand in solidarity and raise, obviously my love to the family of Daniel Prude, who are also going through similar case at the moment, and many, many others. And so just wanting to stand in solidarity with you all doing this same work, and of course, more widely against the other types of restraints and brutality that's happening against our loved ones. And it's really concerning, particularly in Australia. Again, over 500 Aboriginal deaths in custody since 1991, the Royal Commission, and no convictions ever have been laid on any person responsible for those deaths. So we are still yet in Australia over 230 years of colonisation since 1788 here of our people. We are still yet to get any conviction for any murder of an Aboriginal person in custody. On top of that, at the moment, we have places in Australia where 100% of the prison population are Aboriginal people. So imagine walking into a prison and there is not one non-Aboriginal person there except the staff members. So that's really concerning, particularly our youth prisons. We know that in the Northern Territory, in different prisons, 100% of the young people there, as young as 10 years old, being held are all Aboriginal young people. So Australia absolutely has a genocide issue that's been continuing on our lands, and more extensively, we have an issue with government. We have an issue with brutality. We have an issue, though, sadly, where the Australian government largely sweep under the carpet, under the rug of colonialism, this beautiful image of Australia that's sold to a lot of people around the world, but it's just simply not true. So I'm going to leave it there. Calling for a national ban on spit hoods. We're calling for a royal commission into my brother's death to get answers about what happened. We think that these officers should have to face us, and that the state should be charged and convicted for the death of my brother. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Appreciate
Thank you for being here. And we appreciate you, and we stand in solidarity with you as well. The award that you see right here, or commemoration or acknowledgement Lumi put up, that's for you. So you are one of the first people that has been inducted internationally. We stand in solidarity with you, as I mentioned. Stolen Lives Project, to honor the courage that defines love and defies fear, to offer comfort for the pain that pours from loss and ignites her actions, to return to solidarity that crosses oceans and redeems struggle. On this day, December 5th, 2021, at the second virtual Stolen Lives Induction Ceremony, the Stolen Lives Project expresses our deepest appreciation for Latoya Rule, whose brother Wayne Fella Morrison was killed in custody of South Australian Correctional Services, for her fierce and loving commitment to the common humanity of those whose lives have been needlessly stolen by oppressive forces across the world. So thank you so much for your work. Please keep us in touch as to what the progress is with the Spit Hoods and everything that you're doing. It sounds appalling. I mean, I've never heard 100% of the prison population. We do a lot of prison work here, and our numbers do not even come close to that. I mean, they do come close, but not 100%. Especially
And
for younger
we're
people.
3% of the population of Australia, you know, and 100% of the prison population in parts. Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that, and I'll get a copy of that as well.
Right on. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Solidarity.
Solidarity. As you all see, this is an international movement. Kathy Chang put the GoFundMe once again there and said, please donate. They're going to kill me if we don't get at least 400. I mean, at least 400 got to come down. You know, they won't kill me. They'll smother me with hugs and loves, but still, I got to put that energy and support and pressure on. So right now we want to bring up, I believe, hopefully she's ready and with us and able. Yep, I think so. Teresa Gallagher, mother of Travis Posett, who was killed by Rock Springs, Wyoming police on May 20, 2004. How you doing, sis?
Hello?
How's it going? We can hear you.
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly fine. So you have the floor to tell your story and share what you'd like to share.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you so much for having me to have the opportunity again to get Travis's story out there. My son Travis was 30 years old, the judge on Monday morning. Well, Sunday morning, he called hysterical. Dead. I sent Danny and Matt to get Travis, and when they got there, he wasn't there. What they found out was that he had gotten a ride into Rock Springs by a civilian. Consequently, the next morning, or not the next morning, excuse me, on May 28th, there was a loud bang. I answered it. A police officer was there and the coroner, and they told me that Travis had passed away after a short altercation with the police, that he had been stopped on a traffic violation. Travis ran from that traffic violation because he knew on May 22nd that he had agreed to cooperate with the police, and then he reneged. He didn't show up, so they were after him. He knew it. He ran, and when he ran, he was stopped behind the dugout. It's a local novelty store, and Travis was chased by an ATF agent, and with that ATF agent for 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, Travis, it was pepper sprayed twice. He had 5 burns on the left side of his body, 17 blows from his ball. I tried numerous avenues to get in to see him in the hospital and at the morgue, and I was turned away. We never gave them permission to why they didn't just close the case right away. Well, they didn't. And in the meantime, I was able to get and for in-state counsel, I couldn't get any attorneys to help me in the state of Wyoming. Travis, excuse me, when they had him pepper sprayed
Hey, Therese. Unfortunately,
Fell over.
we're having some
Twist.
technical issues. It's
They
cutting in
thought
and
he
out.
had kicked him as his body went through the motions of dying. Attorneys, like I said, we're told to back off. So
Thank you, Therese. We can't really hear you, so unfortunately, we tried to leave it on as long as possible, hoping that the connection would come in better, but we were unable to hear you and your story. So apologies. Maybe there is something that a link that we can go to in the chat that can be provided so that people can get the information that they need. Again, apologies, and we definitely wanted to hear you try to hang on as long as possible. I want to introduce right now Sharon Salam, mother of Yusuf Salam, who should be on deck backstage waiting to share their story. Peace, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm great. How's it going with you?
Well, it's going okay, but I must say, it's really something when you're hearing all these stories. It it turns you around. You can't think straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It pulls at your strings, your heartstrings, and everything else. It's really, really appalling when you hear all of this, because oftentimes when it happens to us, we really think it's just happening to us individually, and we don't really think of how many people that it has really happened to, and we never ever think of the global consequences of all of this stuff. You know, never think that it's happening in Australia, Brazil, China. We don't really relate that way. But these issues that we are talking about here today are ones that have needed to be addressed from the inception of this country, from the inception of before Africa. They needed to be addressed because everyone really, when you're looking at these stories, likes to talk about the story of Cain and Abel. And it's almost we're living Cain and Abel's story every day. That one of us is either killed by the police, arrested unjustly by the police. It's hard to really realize who you can trust within that force. If you really need help, who are you going to call? You know, do you have to reach out and say, where are the Ghostbusters? What do you have to do to get the kind of help and security you need? It's almost like in ways that you're fighting a battle and you're the only one in the pen, and it's 100 people coming up against you, but you're the only one there. And you stay there and you try to fight this battle as long as you can. But one thing that came out of this hearing today regarding the stolen lives is that people can see that it's unity in numbers and it's success in numbers. If we stick together, we have a chance to make things happen. I know my story is a little different than their story because my son was one of the now known as the, exonerated five, Yusuf Salam. But his life was stolen, but he just wasn't killed. But they try to do us in no matter what kind of way they can. They try to kill us. They try to steal our lives. They steal our future. They try to make sure that we are unable to success, either because of the mental anguish that has been forced upon us by going through all of these traumatic experiences, or just day-to-day living trying to make it. It's not easy, but we have to somehow come together in our struggle, because our struggle really is one struggle, and that struggle is for us to stay alive so that our children can live, so that our people can prosper, so that our blood goes on into the future and keeps going. They've been after us for a long time, and they have not been able to wipe us off the planet yet. But they're still trying. You know, it's almost like one time my mother said to me, the roach has been living a long time. No matter how many of them you kill, you can't get them all. We are going to change this system. We are going to make it work. We are going to fight for accountability regarding the police. We are going to have to help them to pay for the damage that they have done. We are going to help them own up to their responsibility to this community. And we're going to do it one state, one town, one city, one person, one nation, one world at a time. Just like they getting those machine, what is that thing I saw go up into the space to hit that rock up there in space? They said it wasn't going to bother us, but they wanted to change its ways. We're going to change their ways no matter what happens. Because by the end of all of this, it's more of us than them. It's more of us that's been in this struggle. It's more of us that know the suffering and pain. It's more of us who are not sitting at the table. But we're going to be there. And change is coming. And our success is just around the corner. We just have to hold on. And don't give up. Stay focused. My son was speaking one day and he said, I hope it was Cardi B. You know, I'm not really a music-y kind of person, but, you know, I like music. But, you know, I'm so old now, it means something and it don't. And he said, well, Cardi B says that if you can fall down, 9 times, get up 10. We're going to keep on getting up until we win. We have that kind of thing in our blood. It's still there. It's going to keep us moving. It's going to keep us motivated, and it's going to take us to the winning circle. And we're going to be there one day together. Amen.
Amen and a woman. Thank you so much for that. That's powerful. You just woke me up. I was here for several hours, and now I got so much more energy hearing that motivational speech, words that you give, the power that you gave. It's perfect transition into our next artist, who is also an amazing, dynamic jewel from Brooklyn, hailing from BK, Jen Dog Lone Wolf. Check out the link, ilovejendog.bandcamp.com. You will not be dismayed. This is an amazing artist and also amazing youth worker and filmmaker, multi-talented. So it's always a pleasure to see your presence and hear what you have to offer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Spirit. Can y'all hear me okay? I hope so. I just want to give love to all the parents, the moms, the sisters, the brothers, the families. And, you know, I'm with y'all. You know, we're with you. So I'm on the Napi land right now. And yeah, just giving love to the peoples, you know. So I have a song. Oh, also I wanted to say that what was it, CCA, they call Core Civic now, but the CCA, they were running, you know, they run the private prisons here. They were also instrumental in privatizing, getting the UK to privatize their prisons, as well as their hand in Australian prisons. So it's no surprise that, you know, the connection, all of our peoples, that they're stealing away to these prisons. So I just wanted to say that. So this song is called State of the World. Really hope it comes through good. And thank y'all for donating out there. If y'all can give more, you know? Yeah. Most victims are not a pot to piss in. I like that cause the shicey politicians protest, but they don't get paid to listen. Hands up and it ain't our palms that glisten. Still open season on blacks and native women. Still cracks in this fast acro system. Corrupt leaders cause the people didn't pick up. Medical and food industry is sickening. Hey yo, we don't start so intertwined, premeditated. Ill-fated victims, this hierarchy is post-dated. Intentions evil, delivering speech is unbelievable. There ain't no good sequel, be victor, the beast will eat you. It's already ceased to be an engine to serve the people. Governmental, 2 words of the evil that men do. The fraudulent Babylon, got our youngins on heroin. People lost in the forefront with barely foundation to stand on. Barricaded in worlds, enveloping girls. No direction, insurrection, my kitchen stay curled. Fools running around like heads with soft torsos. Satisfied with morsels, remember what life taught you. Divided or conquered, together when I lost. What's the method put together? Well, it won't exceed the cost. And that's for sure, your fight should be my fight, mine yours. Tolerate no pause, get them birds off pause. Get them birds off pause. Tolerate no pause, get them birds off pause. Get the birds off pause. Tolerate no pause, get the birds off pause. This little message is for everybody out there listening to us. Every little bit counts. We can't ever stop fighting against this. We gotta be fighting against it in our sleep, in our wallets, in our minds, in our actions, in our movements. What we watch, what we listen to. You know, put your money where your revolution is. Most victims are not a pot to piss in. I like that cause the shicey politicians protest, but they don't get paid to listen. Hands up and it ain't our palms that glisten. Still open season on blacks and native women. Still cracks in this fast acro system. Corrupt leaders cause the people didn't pick up. Medical and food industry is sick. Babies crying ripped from the arms of their moms. And poor dad, brown buckets broken, worn. Disappeared with no regards, life already been hard. Working for the man until you die on the job. Filthy greedy files, not much change since Africa. They sold people, then added evil a formula. Created cheap labor, free, mad heat, slave labor. Evolved the mad beats in our streets. So I spit my piece on this beat unique. I need my people healthy. Brain teeth defeat. Medicare, healthcare, seem like no one with welfare about this brown melanation. Cars and Delphi. There's too many humans whose food supply is too big. Too many children, too many secrets too bare. Too many poor created from the wealthy don't care. Too many doctors selling drugs, too much corporate welfare. Get the birds off pause, tolerating no pause. Get the birds off pause. Get some birds off pause. You tolerating no pause. Get some birds off pause. Thank y'all. And yeah, put your money where your revolution is, people. And all you parents and families, I love y'all, and I'm so sorry. We're working against this. Love y'all.
Love you, Jen Dog. Amazing. Amazing as always. Thank you so much. Power, power, power. We are coming to that power hour. Time is for us to close. We do want to give a few shout outs before we do an announcements. Thank you all for being with us. Please do check out October22nd.org. Check out Stolen Lives.org. Check out the organizations, the GoFundMe if you can. Want to shout out to Andre Smith, mother of Justin Smith, who was killed by Tulsa, Oklahoma sheriffs on August 14th, 1998. And we tried to get her on a few times. Apologies, it didn't work out. We want to invite all families to join the National Family Coalition for Justice next Sunday and every Sunday. Families watching who would like to join, contact Andre Smith. We should put this in the chat as well, 212-920-1957 or email. Thank you. I see already we're on it. And we appreciate all the artists. We love all the artists too. If you can see the chat, the artists that have contributed, Key, Peace Poets, Brother Hood, Sister Soul, Jen Dog, everybody who've contributed here today, as well as all the presenters, the speakers, and the families. We want to give love to the people who are behind the scenes, who've been working hard. Lumi, Kathy, everyone, KB, people who've been going to the meetings, Baba Zaid, and Ingrid, and everyone else who's been a part of this process of making this happen. It's been a year. It's been a year since the last one, and hopefully we'll figure out what's happening for the next time. But as King said, it's really difficult to continue to have these places, but we're going to be here as long as we have to be here and do what we need to do. With that said, we always end with a pledge. And this pledge that we're going to do is going to be led by no other than Ifya and Wanganza, people's lawyer and director of Malcolm X Center for Self-Determination, Greenville, South Carolina. Please do give some attention. We're going to read this pledge together, and I will mute myself, and we will end off with Congo, the video from our beautiful other cultural workers.
Peace, brother Spirit. Unfortunately, Afia hasn't been able to log in. So we might have to hold this one down.
Not a problem. Not a problem. We'll do the pledge. So everyone, please do put your fist up. If you're out there, put your fist up. We are revolutionaries. We are Maroons. We are proud, and we are here to say this pledge together. The Stolen Lives Pledge. I, obviously you say your name, Spirit Child, pledge that the life and the humanity of these stolen lives will not be forgotten. I pledge that their highest hopes and aspirations will live on in us, and that I will seek justice for these and all stolen lives. In this way, I pledge that their memory will stay alive and will inspire us to fight for justice and a better world. Ibaye Ashe to all of the lives that we've lost. We are here for you, all the families. We will be here forever until we die. You have our power, you have our energy, you have our art, you have our hearts, you have our warrior spirit in the streets. We love y'all, and we're going to end with a video. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings, power. Stay light, protect each other, be close. Lumi.
There's only one solution that can ever happen short of revolution itself: organize. When people dare to come together, to work together in their own independent organizations, they can make things happen. It is only that power of people coming together to fight back that will ever have a chance against this social cancer. Organize, organize, and then organize.
La sirène, la baleine. Noué, noué, noué yo. Noué, 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 noué. Noué criminel yo. Noué, noué, noué. Et noué yo. Noué, noué. Assassin criminel yo. Noué, noué ça. Noué, noué ça. Noué l'agneau. Noué, noué ça. Yo touye l'agneau de Dieu. Nous est ça. Nous est ça. Nous est l'agneau. 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 Nous est yo. Nous est l'agneau. Nous est yo. Nous est l'agneau. Nous est yo. Nous est yo. Patrick Dorismont, Amadou Diallo, Georgie Louis-Gène, yo touye l'agneau de Dieu. Ashton Watson, Malcolm Ferguson, Anthony Baez, des spirits vivants. Jean-Marie Vincent tombé, Chalo Jacqueline tombé, Jean-Dominique tombé, Antoine Perry tombé, et yo touye l'agneau de Dieu. Rosario, Tegan, Hannibal, Chago, des spirits vivants. Petite maman tombée, petit papa tombé, petit tombé, mais c'est petit Jean tombé, et yo touye l'agneau de Dieu. Malawi, petit, Brignol Lindor, c'est mon tapou dans le pays ça. Aïe aïe aïe. Mba pressé, après ta oyo, mba pressé, les millions des eaux, mba pressé, yo touye l'agneau de Dieu. Young Shingwan, Eleanor Convert, les spirits vivants, yo touye l'agneau, yo touye l'agneau, yo touye l'agneau, yo touye l'agneau.
Yes, yes, their spirits live on, and we live on with them. And we are here to say thank you so much once again. We are officially closing. I want to thank and honor one more time the ASL translators and communicators, Ibrahim and Rashida. Y'all been a pleasure and delight to work with. And we appreciate and love you all for joining us and being here for the several hours. Please share this to other people. Share the websites, share the link. More importantly, share the work and the organizing. We are not just doing an event or induction ceremony. We are using this as a tool to organize, to agitate, to build, and to create and liberate. So please get in touch with any of the people that you saw here. King, myself, Kathy, Lumi, etc., the artists. We are here at your service. Thank you so much. Keep fighting.